Hey, so today I wanted to dive into some more e-commerce SEO tips. We keep going and going with this sort of thing, but these are some of the ones that I would recommend, especially for anyone who's starting up, you putting together that long-term e-commerce SEO strategy. These are the types of things that if you get them right from the outset, it can just really help, and it just means that you're not having to go back and rectify any mistakes or issues that might be cropping up because you've not addressed something first. So yeah, these are the things that I would be looking out for. There's lots of other things as well, but this is what I'd be trying to prioritize. So the first one is looking at your collection content and your product content and making sure that it's unique. And this also spans to product imagery as well. So definitely with product content, you see it a lot of time with dropshipping stores, especially where you have a lot of the same dropshipping stores using the same suppliers, and they'll just maybe tweak a little bit the content that gets supplied to them, or it's just a product feed and the product description and everything just gets pulled through, but they've not then tweaked it past that point. So naturally, when it comes to index all those products, you've already got your competitors who have basically the same product content as you, probably also got the same product imagery as well. So it can be a bit of a faff, it's a bit of a long term process, but getting that right from the start, making sure everything's unique and you've got your own imagery, you can show you're actually using the product. It's not just a drop shipping style approach, which there's nothing wrong with that, but you obviously want to prove that expertise from the outset, and part of that is having your own unique take on the content and the imagery supplied. And so that's just something to be aware of at the product level. And the same with collections as well. So a site like ASOS does this quite well, where you've just got that top level content below the primary header. Um, and then they've got these little jump tos here for the subcategories, so that works really well from an internal linking perspective. And then you can also have some supporting content, maybe some FAQs on the bottom. But I think the main takeaway here is that they're not just shoving like 1,000 words of content onto every collection page. It's just, what's that, 100 words, 150 words maybe, just summarizes what the collection is about. And, you can then go and jump to related content or collections or products beneath that. I think gone are the days of just adding, 1,000 words and just hoping for the best, trying to cover absolutely everything, because that could just live in a guide, or it might even be specific to a product. So there's product level content. So it's just having something there to provide more context around that collection, maybe mention certain brands and things like that. But it doesn't have to be, thousands of words within that collection. And when it comes to collections as well, so actually having a collection or a category strategy, and that applies to subcategories too. So that could be just making sure you've got those top level categories that they're linked to from the menu, they're indexable. But then also how you need to approach those subcategories that stem off that main collection page. So, for example, color is a really good thing that I see here in terms of the opportunities that color filters can have. But a lot of the time, Shopify and all these different ecom platforms, quite rightly, will just no index filters, or they're blocked in the robots.txt. Because obviously, you open those up and you run the risk of having countless versions of those pages then being indexed, and you've got a crawl budget issue on your hands. So maybe having a think with doing a top level sort of keyword research import, so for something like curtains into Ahrefs, and you can start to look at all those long tail variants or even short tail variants that would justify having their own collection page, that based on how your store is set up otherwise wouldn't be indexable, or you just might be ones that you've not thought of that might have lower levels of competition as well. So for example, like ready-made curtains, curtain type, curtain color, curtain by use, all these different things, bedroom curtains even, so you could have a top level category of curtain by room, things like that, where users would also be looking to navigate to those certain pages. So not only are you getting the SEO benefit, you're driving people in based on, maybe longer tail, we could argue. They're still very high volume, but it's not as top level as something like curtains. But also within the menu, it's set up in a way that makes it really easy for people to navigate to. So if they are coming in through brand or anything like that, the way that you've positioned your menu and the way that you've made it easy for people to navigate just means that you're not losing any of that revenue opportunity because, okay, they've maybe not come in from those pages, but they can still find them, and the way things are structured just makes a lot of sense. So next one is internal links and how you think about internal linking for your ecom store. I think something that every ecom store should have is breadcrumbs. Not only does it sort of make internal linking like the standard across the site, but also, especially for mobile users, it just makes it easier to navigate and jump back to a primary category, maybe if they've gone into a specific product. But again, going back to ASOS, the way that they have these little links to subcategories or related categories, this sort of button format is a really nice way of doing it. What they don't do is house those internal links within the content. So that's something else you need to think about for your collections page. So when you're writing that content, think about those natural internal link opportunities. That's why I say with maybe you mentioning certain brands, there's a really nice opportunity to build brand pages if you don't already have them, or just to reference a related subcategory, or even a guide or a product that you've written about that relates to that collection. Maybe it's something you want to push. I think so long as it's contextual, as somebody's reading it and you would naturally write about it, then don't be afraid to put it in there and add an internal link. Blinds to Go, that's a good example of how you're reading this and it makes total sense, and it's also linking back to different subcategories that they've got that relate to that primary collection page that you're reading. The next one is not just informational content, so like blog pages and guides, but an emphasis on helpful informational content. So I'm certainly not in the camp of just writing content for content's sake. I think with that sort of approach, you will see a nice graph, that's going to grow. You'll definitely get more tracked keywords. You might even get more traffic, but you have to think, what's the point in having all that visibility or even all that additional traffic if it's not the right type of traffic? So one of the things that I like to do is look at, again, with the keyword research, that you could just put something very top level into keyword overviews, like curtains again. And in Ahrefs, you'll get something like this, how to measure curtains. But rather than just going off this, what you want to then look at is the type of sites and the competition that are writing about those sorts of things and their ranking. And then maybe not the bigger retailers, so like Dunelm, John Lewis, IKEA. You want to look for those lower authority sites, and then you can put them into a filter. So for example, this one with Terry's Fabrics, just put their blog in at the top level with a curtain keyword filter. So if we're a curtain retailer, we can see all the types of different articles that not only they're writing related to that topic, but that's actually bringing them traffic. And there's all these different ones here. So then we can make an informed decision of, is this not only the type of thing that our target audience is going to be searching, but can we add to this? Can we add to what's out there? Is there an opportunity to create supporting video content for this sort of thing? So for example, do we see, let's say for something like how to put up a curtain track or how to measure a curtain, there's a big visual element to that as well. So can we create infographics, create TikToks, Instagram Reels, maybe more of a long form YouTube video as well? So we have to think about that when doing article and informational keyword research. And that goes back to that helpful sort of emphasis too, in that it's not just creating helpful written content. You can really show your expertise with that visual side of things, where you're just really proving your expertise in the space and you're answering those questions that your audience, is desperate for answers for, but they might not be searching on Google, or they might not want to read an article. They just want a visual component to it. So you can embed your videos, your TikToks, YouTubes, all within that article. And then it goes back the other way around as well. You embed the article within the YouTube video. So that one piece of written content then, from that helpful angle, then becomes multiple different videos and different opportunities to find traffic that you maybe otherwise might not have if you're just focusing on blog content alone. So then when it comes to page speed from an SEO perspective, I suppose it's much more about how crawlable the site is, how quick it is to initially load for users, and the actual UX when they're landing on the site as well. Is the imagery that big that it's just really clunky as it's loading? Are there so many scripts above the fold that it's just taking forever to actually load the main content of the page? So working with the developer, especially if you're doing like custom themes and things like that, just to not only get that initial optimization from a page speed side of things, but long-term testing and working out what is actually the best for users as they're navigating around the site. And that's a big thing that I see site owners maybe not consider, is that when they're running their site through these page speed tools, they're probably only putting in the homepage. And it's really important that you're doing multiple tests from multiple different tools like Pingdom, web page test, obviously page speed insights, but you're testing all those different templates, because you might have a really quick homepage, but if actually everybody's coming in organically through a collection page or a product page, and your product images are so large that they're taking multiple seconds to load, it doesn't matter how quick your homepage is to load, because that's not the main one that people are visiting anyway. So, it's important to test from the outset, but as you start to get your traffic data in, then you can start to really drill down on what the top pages are and how you need to start further optimizing specific page templates from a page speed and that broader UX side of things as well. And then the final one is link building. So this is link building in the sense of we're going for that broader digital PR approach, or even broader traditional PR approach. But there is obviously the link building focus to it. Loads of different platforms, loads of different approaches that we can use, but these are some that I've maybe not spoke too much about in the past, and the ones that I see working really well for e-commerce sites and retailers in 2025. So the first one is just awesome platform, which is Pressloft. And what's really cool as well is that they've got this expert quote section now, so they're bringing that Harrow side of commentary things into the platform. But the main thing is that you can add your product imagery and press releases and really try to get out there with journalists who are looking to put buyer's guides and gift guides together, and you can get your product in front of them. And that's why it's really important, going back to that first point on product imagery, that you have your own, because not only are you getting the SEO benefit, but you have this PR benefit if you've got, you've really taken the time to get some quality imagery that your competitors don't have. Sometimes the journalists just want high quality imagery as well. Sometimes they might want the product to test it and include it in the guide. But this is a really, really good one. And it just goes that extra step further than traditional sort of commentary or gifting requests that you find on all of the different platforms that are out there at the moment. But if you didn't want to pay for a platform, you could also do it through something like If This Then That. So I've got these applets set up for journal requests, expert commentary requests. We could do the same for, gift guide requests, or hashtag journal request and gift and the niche that we're in or the product that we're selling. So that's another way of looking at those opportunities. Obviously, you don't get as many opportunities as you would with a sort of dedicated platform like Pressloft. This is a really good one though, and you could also do, let's say we're in the travel space, we've got a travel gift or a travel product, then we could do something like travel and gift guide and 2024, and we can manually reach out to all these different journalists and publishers to see if they want to update their guide for this year, are they writing something new, and then, you start that conversation early on to see if your product can be included in the next guide that they're writing. You can also find these opportunities through Quoted. This is more on the expert commentary side of things, but you do often find journalists and publishers looking for gift guides and gift opportunities as well. I think Pressloft is better for that side of things, but there's no harm in looking at Quoted, because you can still do really, really well from different press interviews and expert commentary requests. So don't, miss out on Quoted because it's not specific to gifting. If anything, it might actually be better from a link building perspective, because it's just time and expert commentary, where I guess the gifting side is the cost of the product and all that side of things as well. And then the final one is blogger outreach. But the way that I would approach this is thinking about our audience, the type of blogs that they would read in the niche that we're actually in, and then the type of things that the publishers that we would want to work with are writing about. So rather than just going travel bloggers and going through a list of them, if we're looking specifically for food travel bloggers, say we sell spice kits or something like that, and we're wanting to gift them, or we're wanting to outreach to them, maybe get a guest post or a niche edit or something, then going really to the long tail. So rather than saying like, let's look for food bloggers, so we'll go best restaurants in London. Well, obviously the level of competition for something like that is going to be really high. It's going to be harder to manually find bloggers for those sorts of things, because they're just not going to be able to outrank, Yale and Yelp and stuff like that. But best restaurants in London for solo travelers, that's something a bit more niche, and we can already see, you've obviously got Reddit, but it's pretty obvious that there's a lot of smaller bloggers and publishers alongside these bigger sites like Design My Night. And then we can start to manually outreach to these bloggers and publishers. And we already know that they're relevant because we've done that audience research from the outset. We now just need to vet these sites to make sure that they pass everything on the metric side as well before we try to secure a link or a feature for the product. Yeah, so I hope this was helpful. Just sort of whistle stop tour on the different types of e-commerce SEO approaches that you can take in 2025. Sure, this is just going to keep changing, so keep an eye out for more e-commerce videos in the future. Any questions, drop me a comment and I'll see you in the next video.